You may be seated.
Hello, Your Honor. This is a case of Manser versus Sehr.
Thank you, Jerome. Sure. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Good day.
Mr. Manser, you claim you spent 5 years in prison for failing to pay child support for the defendant, Ms. Sear's son, Dylan.
That's right.
And it was never proven that you are his biological father.
That's right.
Now, Ms. Sehr, you say you have proof that Mr. Manser is Dylan's father. You argue you are here to prove again that he is the father of your son, to finally stop him running from his responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Manser, explain to the court the circumstances surrounding your arrest.
Well, Your Honor, I'm here to explain that 12 hours of my life cost me 5 years in the Department of Corrections. She was a friend of my aunt. She was best friends with my aunt. We all lived in the same little community. She lived across the street. I knew of her. I knew her. I've spoken to her. But as far as intimacy, we was together one time. And I hate to be crude, but it was a one-night stand.
I don't care what your version was. I was far from a one-night stand.
Living across the street from each other?
Far from a one-night stand.
My wife's going to be upset because I live across the street from somebody and I'm not dating them.
Oh, if I was your wife, I wouldn't trust you for nothing.
I don't think after all of this that has transpired, it really matters whether it was a one-night stand or a two-day tryst.
My biggest concern.
The point is you all had a sexual relationship at some point, so there is a possibility that he's the father of your son, Dylan.
Possibility.
Okay.
I didn't find out anything about the child until I was served with papers in 1995.
And so you showed up for court, and what happened?
No, I wasn't able to show up for court. I was completely on the other side of the state. I was indigent. I was living at my mom's, didn't have a job at the time. So I didn't show up for court, and I was named the natural father by default.
And then what happens?
And then I was charged criminally for not paying the child support that was ordered in the default judgment.
So how did you get arrested?
That came 3 years later after I still didn't pay child support, still unable to pay. I still had doubt. I've never, to this day, thank God for your show, or I'd never know for sure whether or not I was the natural father. Never.
If you would have showed up for court, you would have known.
I didn't. I couldn't show up for court.
Why?
There's a lot of people.
I got there.
You live in the same town.
Well, I got there just fine.
I'm sure you did.
I wasn't busy running away from everybody.
Did you? That's right.
You didn't pay child support for about 8 years. Quit telling them it's 3 years. It was about 8 years.
The court order was 1995. I got arrested in 1998, so that's 3 years in my calculation. 12 years. And then I went to prison for 5 years. When I got out of prison in 2003, I paid child support from that day until just February of last year when I lost my job.
Only because they garnished your wages.
Absolutely, that's what they do. And I actually asked my public defender, where's the proof? I've yet to see proof that the child's mine. He said that they obtained my DNA through a sample that was already on file. That's what she's claimed this whole time.
For a daughter you didn't raise too.
So, that's right. I'm not here to win any Father of the Year awards, believe me.
You wouldn't get it.
So, but I'm here to say that, you know, in today's society, I think it's cruel and unusual punishment to be sentenced to 5 years in prison with rapists and murderers and child molesters for missing a court date, because that's basically what happened. I missed a court date.
You missed being a father.
I didn't know he was mine. You've had these so-called results, you know, for all this time. If she presented these results back in 1995, or better yet, in court when I was going to be sentenced to prison, things could have been a whole lot different. I know I would have embraced Dylan a lot more than I did, because to this day, I still don't have proof.
Once you don't show up for court,
right,
Mr. Manser,
I guarantee you there's
you
thousands.
Understand that now, that in this country, you got to show up for court. Well, if you got to walk there.
You're right.
You need to be there.
Okay.
And then you pled guilty.
So for every American boy out there that goes to Florida on spring break and hooks up with a girl, and the girl goes to Texas, and the boy goes back to Massachusetts, and there's a petition to show up.
Yes.
If he can't fly from Massachusetts to Texas, he's automatically the natural father.
He better find a way.
There's going to be a lot of people in prison.
Listen. The pain that you've endured and what you've gone through is in part because
my stubbornness.
Thank you.
Yeah, my stubbornness.
And you are a living example of that.
And it needs to be known out there.
So now, as you're being hauled off to court, you're still adamant, and you're saying, I'm not the father of this child.
I'm saying I've never been proven to be the father of this child. I hadn't met him until he was like 15 years after I initiated contact for my son, Chris. I wanted.
So wait.
But
now, are you convinced he is the father?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because I have had a DNA test done, and I have the results right here. Would you like a copy of it?
Well, she's worked for lab pretty much for the last 20 years. I'd question the validity of the results. I mean, she'd get those anyway.
Hold on 1 second. Jerome, please hand me Ms. Sear's evidence.
There you go.
And it also shows the lab the seal was not tampered with, therefore I could not have tampered with the sample.
I never submitted a test. I got a hold of court clerks. They sent me I have a docket sheet here that pretty much details everything that's ever taken place in my file. There's nothing in there that shows any lab results. I mean, she had a boyfriend at the time. She had a Navajo Indian.
Jerome,
that was her boyfriend.
Please hand me Mr. Manser's evidence as well.
He has evidence of what?
I have evidence that there was never a DNA test. There's no DNA testing in there.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Before we continue to argue this, let me look at Ms. Sear's evidence that she included, because I want to understand the situation surrounding this previously collected sample.
Who's to say it was my sample? Maybe they got it mixed up with John Smith down the street, you know? I mean,
Ms. Sehr, your evidence clearly states that there was a laboratory test performed.
Yes, ma'am.
I see here.
I don't think it happened. I think she worked in the lab and that she's had this thing manufactured. So.
This is what movies are made of. Now, Ms. Sehr,
I am good at my job, but I'm not that good.
Well,
did you work at a lab?
I did. Actually, at that time, I worked at a plasma center. I harvested plasma with 16-gauge needles. Had nothing to do with DNA.
I'm sure that, you know, when you're in a business, you know other people that's in the business.
Now, what's interesting to me is that as I go through this evidence and I get to the information that is also included in the collection of the samples, I do see that for alleged father, it's entirely blank.
That's right.
Meaning
imagine that.
There is no social security number.
That's right.
There is no address.
She forgot to put that part in there.
There is no information about you. It's all blank. There's no picture of you. There's no photograph.
She didn't have that information. That's right. Exactly.
So obviously, your contention that you didn't show up, you weren't there for this particular test is true.
Right.
Because there's no evidence that you were there on that
exactly
day.
Right. Thank
We've
you,
established
Your Honor.
that.
Thank you.
We do, however, see a lab record of a collection taken on May the 1st, 1995, which they claim was you.
The date of May when they put on there underneath the ascension number, that is when they pulled a sample out of the freezer.
Ms. Sehr, I see the laboratory results of the testing with a probability of paternity of 99.67%.
Well, you're the
Do you
second
know, man,
person.
that he said 99.67 means he still might not be the father when he heard that number?
Now, listen,
you can't pretend.
Mr. Manser, let me say this to you. What I do believe that's missing in all of this evidence is I don't see any information relating to the collection of the sample from Mr. Manser. Now, listen, Mr. Manser, let me say this to you. What I do believe that's missing in all of this evidence is I don't see any information relating to the collection of the sample from Mr. Manser.
Right.
Nothing. Now, this court has administered new testing.
Right.
And both of you submitted to the test.
And it was.
True.
Is that correct?
And it was very thorough. There was initially.
And is that correct, Ms. Sear?
Yes.
It's gonna be
And
quite
we will
different than what she's
reveal
presented.
those results shortly.
You think our DNA changed in 20 years?
No, I think the chain of custody's changed. I think.
Okay.
Your Honor, wouldn't most women want to shove that piece of paper in my face? I've yet to see this piece of paper.
What's that got to do with anything?
Well, I guarantee you, any woman in this courtroom would want to prove or erase any of my doubt, that's for sure.
You didn't even talk about doubt. There was never even an issue of doubt until my son turned 18 years old.
Why
So
would
wait
I?
a minute, Miss
My
Sear,
check's
hold
being
on, hold
garnished.
on,
You blamed
hold
him for
on.
8
Let's
years.
get some order. Let's get some order. I want to understand this. Miss Sear, you're saying that he expressed no doubt to you as to whether or not Dylan was his son until he was around 18?
Not until Dylan turned 18.
Don't you think the fact that I have nothing to do with it would express doubt?
You even had nothing to do with 3 of your kids, including the one
I got
sitting
one
there.
right here.
Not until he was 13.
I got one right now. Yeah,
Didn't
because
even
I was
meet
in
him until he was
prison for
13.
5 years.
Do the math. That's not 13 years.
I'm not winning no awards. I'm here to tell you that I didn't submit a DNA test.
At least on my part, he made up for it. He really has.
So let's hear from your son. Please step up to the podium, Mr. Manser. Please step up. You are Mr. Manser's son.
Yes.
Please tell us, has he been a father to you? And if so, has he been a good one?
Absolutely. He's been a great father to me. We've had our ups and downs, as a father-son relationship should be, but
We're best friends.
we really are.
We're best friends.
And Chris, you've met Dylan, Miss Sear's son.
I originated that.
Were you like brothers, Chris?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You had a relationship.
Yeah, I've felt he was my brother since I met him.
So you've seen your father treat Dylan well?
Yes, absolutely.
I've been withdrawn. I've been distant, but that's
Yeah.
because of the doubt that I've had, you know?
You didn't even.
I've had doubt.
So, Mr. Manser, you claim this has destroyed your life.
Absolutely.
You've had a pretty decent life. You didn't give
Yeah,
up
but it ain't got
anything.
nothing-
My son graduated high school, Billy Joe.
we meet Dylan. Jerome, will you please escort Dylan into the courtroom,
Certainly.
please?
Go ahead and stand on the other side of her.
Hello, Dylan.
How are you?
Thank you for joining us. Now, Dylan, I want to know about your relationship with your father.
I feel I don't know him that well.
We don't. We don't know each other.
Go ahead, son.
I love Chris, though. We've spent a lot of time together.
Your brother.
Yep.
We're gonna be brothers no matter what. No matter what happens after today.
I've only met
Would
my
you
little
like
brother.
to have a relationship with Mr. Manser?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I can't respect someone talking so much harmful to my mother like
And
that.
that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to do that.
What do you want from today, Dylan?
I haven't seen either one of them in over a year
There's a
now.
daughter on the way.
I have a daughter due in November. You're the grandpa. I'd like for you to be part of her life,
Well,
too.
I've advised you to get proof.
I've advised him to raise his child from day one.
Well, once you get proof, you will.
Ms. Sehr, you are very emotional right now. What are you feeling in this moment?
I feel like I have never, ever deserved disrespect. I was not the woman that showed up at your doorstep every 2 months. You're going to be my baby's daddy. I have never disrespected you. I
You
let
didn't
you
have to, a
be and
prosecutor
live your
did.
life and live your selfish life you have lived for the last 20 years.
I think it's time for the results.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Jerome, do you have the envelope?
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Everything's in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics. And because this is a very special case, and we've had previous DNA testing done in which our plaintiff questions the chain of custody of the specimen, the actual sample that was collected,
Right. No, there's no doubt the results of this.
you filled out the proper forms.
That's right.
Including your names, date of birth, social security number,
That's right.
and you signed them, right?
ma'am.
Yep.
You presented photo IDs.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
there wasn't a friend of mine there either.
Not
That's
a
why
friend
these will be
there.
accurate.
The photographs were taken of each of you, everyone involved.
They
There
even-
was swabbing performed, and they were packaged in envelopes.
In front of us. In front of me.
They were properly labeled, signed by the collector, sealed with tape,
Right.
and sent to the lab for testing. Are we clear
Yes,
on
ma'am.
that procedure?
That's
Yeah.
the correct
And you were
procedure.
comfortable with that
Absolutely.
procedure?
Yes.
The lab, because of the sensitivity of this issue, ran 2 tests.
Nice.
The results are as follows. In the case of Manser versus Sehr, Mr. Manser, the lab, because of the sensitivity of this issue, ran 2 tests. The results are as follows. In the case of Manser versus Sehr, as it pertains to 20-year-old Dylan Sehr, Mr. Manser, You are not
Oh, God.
his father.
Oh, man. 5 years in prison. Dylan, I'm sorry, bro. But this is why. This is why I did what I did.
But this
and
is
acted-
nothing I made up. The lab did
You
it.
made it all up. You
No,
made
I
those-
did not.
Well, those results
I
apparently
don't
are
know
made
any
up.
of those people on that form.
Oh, my God.
This is clearly the most shocking
Very much.
news we've ever gotten in this courtroom.
Oh, my God. She should be convicted of some crime.
No, I should not. I did
Mr.
That
not.
is
Manser,
fraud.
Mr. Manser,
That is fraud.
I know you're upset. I know it's overwhelming. I need a moment with Dylan because I want to make sure he understands. Do you want to find out who your father is?
Of course.
Miss Sehr, do you know?
Yes, ma'am.
You know who his father is?
Yes, I talk to him still.
Listen,
Get away from my son.
he apologized.
And under another breath, he's calling me a liar.
You cannot stand there and really suggest that you cannot comprehend why this man would not have any type of ill feeling, frustration, or regret as it relates to anything involving you. 5 years in prison. And then I say, do you know who your son's father is? And you say, yes, I'm still in touch with him. That is a really huge pill to swallow. Dylan, this was not an easy day for you. And I commend you for standing here as respectfully as you have. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
If you need help processing this, figuring out how to get through it, the court can provide resources for you all. I wish you the best of luck. And I'm going to see each one of you in my chambers because I feel like I need to tell you some things as a woman and judge that can help you move forward faster.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
Can you start right here,